The stage lights burned white. The crowd cheered for my wife, Mara, as she stood with her guitar under the big banner that said, Homecoming Night. 10 hours on the road had turned my eyes gritty, but I kept them on her. My hands shook, not from love now, but from the tiny remote in my pocket. She stepped to the mic. This next song is for someone special, she said. He knows who he is. My jaw ached. I knew she didn't mean me. I glanced at the sound booth where my friend Luis waited. He had switched the USB drive like we planned. When Mara hit the first chord, the band came in soft. The drums were a heartbeat. The crowd went quiet, ready to melt for her voice. I pressed the remote. The background track didn't play the usual soft strings. It played a voice memo, the one I found on her phone at 3 a.m., the one she sent a man she called my light. Her own voice filled the hall, breathy and warm. Jace, when you hold me after the show, it feels like the world stops. The guitar went dead in her hands. The drummer froze mid-tap. The crowd made a sound like air breaking. Mara's eyes found mine in the front row. She shook her head, a small, wild shake, like she could undo the sound with her lips. My remote had one more button. If I pressed it, the projector would show the photos I pulled from her cloud, her smiling in a green room with him, her cheek to his cheek, her fingers hooked into the collar of his jacket. I moved my thumb. Before the photos appeared, a man in a black hoodie started pushing to the aisle toward me, fast and hard. I recognized him from the pictures. Jace. He wasn't smiling now. His jaw was set like a wall. He was coming straight for me. I pressed the second button. The projector hummed. And then the day started soft. Morning light came through the shears, and the house smelled like coffee and laundry soap. Our small kitchen in Columbus was warm, with the old heater knocking in the wall. I packed a cooler with sandwiches, apples, and a bag of chips, the way my dad used it for road trips. I wrote for the road on a sticky note and slapped on a lid, like a proud kid showing work to a parent. Mara's show was in Nashville. 10 hours if you kept your foot steady and didn't mess around with long stops. I left her a text. Be in the front row tonight. Proud of you. Call when you wake up. I tucked the little white gift box under the passenger seat, a silver charm shaped like a tiny microphone. I bought it with overtime money. I wanted to give it to her after the show. I wanted to see her eyes get that deep sparkle, the one that made me think every hard day could still turn sweet. It sounds simple now, maybe even foolish, but I believe good effort brings good things. I believed if you show up, love shows up back. The road pulled me south. Ohio fields gave way to rolling Kentucky hills, then the long Tennessee stretches with tall billboards. I sang along to Mara's first EP, the one we made in our living room with blankets hanging on the walls to catch the echo. I knew every word, every tiny crack in her voice, every inhale. It felt like driving with her beside me, even though I was alone. I stopped once for gas and once for a bathroom, then pushed on. The sky turned from pale blue to a warm glow. By the time I crossed into Nashville, the sun sat low like a hot coin on the edge of the city. Her text came in. Busy day. Mic check soon. Love you. I smiled so hard it made my cheeks hurt. I found a venue, a big old theater with red bricks and bright letters, but tickets were marked sold out. My heart dipped, then climbed right back when the box office lady recognized Mara's name and handed me a will call ticket left under Ethan. Mara thought of me. She made sure I'd get in. Inside, I saw the sound guy, Luis, wiping down a board. He was an old friend. We used to play in a garage band together before life pulled us other ways. He shouted. We hugged hard. He smelled like coffee and cables. She said you were coming. Wouldn't miss it, I said. Front row, he grinned, pointing. Best seat in the house. I walked to the stage edge and put my hands on the rail. The hall was gold and velvet, with rows of seats like waves. For a moment I thought, this is what all those nights were for. The noodles for dinner, the cheap dates, the old car I kept running with YouTube videos and prayer. This was a payoff. My wife on a big stage. Me in the front row. The world opening like a door. The door didn't open. It cracked. I saw it during sound check. Mara was on stage, laughing. She tuned her guitar. A tall man in a hoodie stood near the curtain, his body angled toward her. He didn't look like crew. He looked like he belonged to her. He leaned in close, said something, and she smiled that deep, private smile, the one she once saved for our living room, for me. When she adjusted her mic, he touched the back of her arm like he owned the space. My stomach did a slow turn. The feeling wasn't hot or loud. It was cold and neat, like a drawer sliding shut inside me. "That's Jace," Louise said at my shoulder. He spoke low, like a doctor reading a chart to a family member. "New manager." "Manager," I repeated, because the word was easier than the thought. "Since when?" "Couple months," he said, eyes on the board. "He's involved." He shot me a look that tried to be careful but landed hard. "Involved how?" I asked. My voice came out thin. Louise made a face, a mix of sorry and warning. "I don't know," he said, and we both knew that meant he didn't know enough. The old heater knock from our kitchen wasn't there to comfort me. The theater had its own sounds, humming lights, whispering crew, cables snaking like shadows. I stared at the stage and told myself I was seeing wrong, that I was tired, that the road made shapes out of smoke. I told myself love was stronger than a glance against the curtain. At 4 in the afternoon, I slipped out to the parking lot. My hands needed something to do. I took out the little white gift box from under the seat and opened it. The microphone charm glittered in the dull light. "For your voice," I had told the jeweler. "For the thing that saves us." The jeweler said, "Nice idea," the way strangers do when their heart is not in it. I put the box back and leaned on the car, breathing slow. A text buzzed in. It was from Mara. "Tonight is special," it said. "I'm dedicating a song you'll see." My heart warmed, stubborn and faithful. "To me," I thought. She's dedicating one to me. Then I made a mistake most people make when they are scared of a truth. I went searching for proof the truth was false. I went looking for her voice memos. Maybe you think that's a bad thing to do. Maybe you think you should trust first and ask later. I think that too, on normal days. But this did not feel like a normal day. This felt like the day something fell off a shelf by itself while you were standing in the room. I remember the old cloud password we set up years ago when we were broke and sharing one laptop. Sometimes the old password still worked because we never thought we'd have anything worth stealing. I tried it on my phone. The little wheel spun. A folder opened. There were rehearsal recordings. There were nonsense notes. There were videos of our dog trying to catch a fly and hitting his head on the couch. And there were voice memos with names that were not mine. "For Jay," one of them read. 2 a.m. thoughts. Another said, "After the show with Jay." My thumb hovered. I looked up at the big sky, then down at the small screen. I tapped. Her voice poured out. It was soft and close, like she was whispering into my ear while I slept. "Jace," she said, "tonight was magic. When you held me, I forgot the crowd. I forgot everything. You are my light. I can't wait till this doesn't have to be secret." The rest blurred. The words kept going, but my ears moved away from them, like they belonged to another head. My chest felt stuffed with cotton and nails. I pressed my phone to my heart, because I didn't know what else to hold. People talk about the feeling of being left out. Usually we mean not being picked for a game, or not being invited to a party. This was that feeling grown huge and heavy. It was standing at your own window and seeing your own table through the glass, with your own plate set, and someone else sitting in your chair. I could have gone home. I could have thrown the cooler in the back, tossed the gift in the trash, and driven north until Miles scraped the 8 clean. But the road was not a door either. It was a circle. I knew I would just drive home and circle the same questions. Why? When? What did I miss? Instead, I found Luis again. He must have seen my face because he didn't say a joke. He took me backstage, put a paper cup of water in my hand, and shut the door. I told him what I found. My words came out like blocks, one after another, clumsy and square. He didn't interrupt. When I was done, he rubbed his jaw and looked at the ceiling. "I can help you," he said finally. "But if I do, there's no going back. Are you sure?" "Help me how?" I asked. He tapped the soundboard. She runs a backing track for the second verse of Northern Light. It's synced to the click. If I swap in your file, it'll play in the hall. He watched me. I shouldn't even be saying this. I leaned on the table. The wood edge dug into my palms. And the projector? I asked, surprised at myself. It was like the words were crawling out of the part of me that had already snapped. We can cue a slideshow, he said. But Ethan, think. This will burn the room down. The room is already on fire, I said. I heard how flat I sounded. A part of me wanted to cry, and a part of me wanted to lie down and sleep for a week. Another part, the part that had been good and patient and quiet for so long, stood up straight. Do you want revenge? Luis asked softly, or the truth? Both, I said. He nodded, slow. Then we do it clean or not at all. I won't lie about the audio. If anyone asks, I'll say it was me. You'll own the pictures. And we stop if anyone will get hurt. You copy. I nodded. I copy. We work fast. He loaded the voice memo under the right slot. He gave me a tiny remote to trigger it on my signal. 1 press for audio, 2 for projector. He showed me the light on the side that would glow green when it was live. He looked me in the eye and said, "One more chance to walk away." "I'm already gone," I said, which was true in a way I didn't know yet. The theater filled. People laughed and took pictures and hugged each other. I took my seat in the front row and put the little white gift back under my chair. I could still have stopped. I could have stood up and walked out and kept my pain quiet. But I sat. The house lights dimmed. The band stepped out. The first 2 songs were upbeat, easy. She looked happy, and every cheer felt like a twist of a small knife. Then she moved to the stool and said the words that cracked the air for me. "This next song is for someone special. He knows who he is." The words were a round stone thrown in a pond, and the ripples reached everyone. Some people odd. Some clapped. I watched her mouth form the words and thought of all the times those lips had said my name. She began to play. My thumb found the button. I pressed. Her own secret voice filled the hall. The room didn't move at first. Then people turned their heads like grass in wind. She froze. The drummer sticks hovered midair. Luis kept his hands folded, face blank, like a man in a photograph. I felt hollow and clear. I felt like a window with no glass. Then I saw him, Jace, coming to the aisle, his eyes sharp and sure, his body angled like a runner. He was coming for me. My heart hammered, loud as the bass that wasn't playing. I tightened my hand on the remote. I could end this. I could end everything. I pressed the second button. The projector woke with a hum. A white rectangle opened on the curtain, like a new door to a bright room. The first picture began to fade in. Mara in that green room, face tilted, mouth open in a laugh I had once thought belonged to me. And someone grabbed my shoulder from behind. The grip was iron. I was wrenched sideways in my seat, the remote slipping in my sweaty palm. I twisted to see who it was, my breath catching in my chest as the screen flashed to full brightness and the first image sharpened in front of the whole room. The grip on my shoulder tightened, yanking me halfway out of my seat. I turned, ready to swing or shove, only to see a uniform. A security guard, stocky and red-faced, glared down at me. "Sir, you need to come with me. Now." Behind him, Jace was still pushing through the crowd like a storm, eyes locked on me. The audience had stopped clapping entirely. Every head was either turned toward the stage, where Mara stood frozen, or toward me, and the projector had just finished fading in the first photo. Mara in a green room, cheek pressed against Jace's. His arm was wrapped around her waist, his lips brushing her hair. The caption in the corner of the picture was a date, 2 months ago, the night she'd told me she was doing a private rehearsal. The hall erupted into noise, shouts, gasps, someone yelling, "What the hell is this?" The guard's hand pushed at my back, trying to move me toward the aisle. My remote was still in my hand, slick with sweat. My thumb hovered over the button for the next slide. I didn't press it. Not yet. Luis was standing in the booth, expression unreadable, hand still on the board. He gave me a short, sharp nod. "Our silent, are you ready? Signal from when we use to play live sets." "Sir," the guard barked again. "You're leaving now." Jace finally reached my row. He didn't wait for the guard. He grabbed my arm himself. His grip was tighter, hotter, and full of something more dangerous than the guard's duty. "You think you're smart?" he hissed, his voice just low enough that no one but me could hear. "You think this is going to end well for you?" I leaned closer, so only he could hear me back. "It already has." I pressed a button. The next image flashed up. Mara and Jason what looked like a hotel bed. She was laughing, head thrown back, his face bared against her neck. This time the crowd's reaction wasn't just shock. It was rage. Some people booed. Others shouted. A couple of women near the front row started yelling at Mara directly, her face drained of color. She set her guitar down, hands trembling, and started saying something into the mic, but her voice was swallowed by the noise. The guard tried to shove me forward again, but the chaos in the room was building so fast that order was slipping away from him. People were standing now, blocking aisles, turning toward each other in angry clusters. Phones were out, filming. And then, over the roar, I heard Mara's voice not into mic, but sharp and raw from the stage. "Ethan, what have you done?" I didn't answer. I just kept my eyes on her while Jace's grip tightened. I was waiting for one more cue, one more moment to drop the final blow. Because the last slide in the queue wasn't just a picture. It was a screenshot of her voice memo to him, the one where she called him my light. And once the crowd heard it, once they heard it with their own ears, there'd be no taking it back. I just needed to survive the next 30 seconds. And then the guard's radio crackled and a voice said, "Lock the exits. We've got a situation." I smiled. This was about to get even messier. The guard's hand clamped hard on my arm, but the order to lock the exits slowed him. He hesitated, glancing toward the back where two more security staff were moving to block the doors. That hesitation was my gap. I twisted, slipping free of his grip just enough to sidestep into the row. Jace lunged for me, but the seats between us turned into a shield. I ducked low, still clutching the remote, and kept my eyes locked on the stage. Mara was shouting over the noise, but no one cared. The crowd had become a beast, angry, curious, restless. Phones were recording every second. Some fans were yelling questions. Is it true? Who's that guy? Others were aiming their cameras at Jace, realizing he was the man in the pictures. Luis's voice crackled faintly in my earpiece, the tiny in-ear monitor he'd slipped me backstage. "Ethan, we're still live on the projector. Do you want the audio memo now?" I scanned the chaos, security blocking exits, Jace trying to push past strangers, Mara still standing there, visibly unraveling. This was the moment. "Do it," I said. The speakers popped, and the music died entirely. Then her voice, soft, breathy, private, filled the entire theater. "Jace, tonight was magic. When you held me, I forgot the crowd. I forgot everything. You are my light." Gasps. A ripple of sound moving through the audience, like a wave hitting a wall. I can't wait until this doesn't have to be secret. Mara slapped her hand over the mic, screaming, "Stop it! Turtle FF," but it was too late. The recording ended, leaving the air so heavy you could almost feel it pressing down. Jace had frozen mid-step. His face was pale now, not angry, scared, because the crowd's anger wasn't just aimed at Mara anymore, it was splitting. Some people were shouting at him. Others were filming both of them. The scandal wasn't a whisper now. It was a wildfire. I stood slowly, holding the remote at my side. The guard was gone, pulled away by the shouting at the exits. Jace's eyes met mine again. He didn't charge this time. He measured me. And I realized something. He wasn't just worried about the embarrassment. There was something bigger at stake for him. Something I didn't know yet. Mara tried to speak into the mic again, her voice breaking. "Ethan, please." And that's when the loudest voice in the room came from somewhere near the middle rows. "You didn't tell them about the money, did you, Mara?" Everything stopped for half a heartbeat. Mara's head snapped toward the voice. I saw her face drain of every last drop of color. The crowd smelled blood. And suddenly, I knew this wasn't just about love or betrayal. There was another secret, one big enough to make both of them panic. and I was going to find out exactly what it was. The crowd turned like a school of fish, head swiveling toward the man who'd shouted. He stood halfway back, tall, wearing a battered leather jacket, and holding up his phone like evidence. His voice cut through the noise again. "Tell them, Mara. Tell them where the 50 grand went." 50 grand. The number hit me like cold water. Mara's lips parted, but no words came. She clutched the mic stand like it might hold her up. Jay started moving, not toward me this time, but toward him. Luis's voice buzzed in my earpiece. "Ethan, that's Carson Hale. He's a promoter. Dangerous guy. If he's here, your wife's in deeper trouble than you thought." The name felt familiar. Then I remembered. Months ago, Mara had said she'd been offered a big break by a Nashville promoter, but the deal didn't feel right. She'd brushed it off, saying she walked away before signing anything. Apparently, she hadn't. The theater was boiling over now, security trying to push through to Carson, fans yelling, some cheering, some furious. Jace reached Carson first, shoving him in the chest. "You don't talk about that here." Jace growled. Carson didn't back up. "You think you can hide it forever? You two took my money and ran. I've got contracts, signatures." He held up his phone higher, as if ready to hit play. That's when I realized Carson wasn't bluffing. He had proof. And in that moment, the revenge I thought was complete felt unfinished. My plan had been to humiliate them. But now there was another layer. Something criminal, maybe. Something that could burn them down far worse than an affair ever could. I stepped out into the aisle, remote still in hand. "Hey, Carson." I called, my voice sharper than I expected. His eyes flicked to me. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who's interested in whatever's on that phone." Before he could answer, Jace lunged for him, and they crashed into a row of seats. The crowd surged around them like a tide. Phones flew into the air, people shouting to record it all. Mara, pale and shaking, abandoned her mic and started toward the side exit. Luis's voice came to my earpiece again, low and urgent. "Ethan, she's trying to run. You want me to lock her in?" I hesitated. My gut said yes, but another part of me, the part that still remembered mornings in our kitchen, her head on my shoulder, hesitated just long enough. And in that hesitation, Mara looked over her shoulder, straight at me. Our eyes locked. Then she bolted through the side door, and I knew if she got away now, the whole truth about Jace, about Carson, about the 50 grand, might vanish with her. I pushed through the crowd toward the door, not caring if I lost sight of Carson and Jace's fight, because if I didn't catch her now, I might never get the full story. And without the full story, there would be no final revenge. The side door slammed behind Mara with a heavy metal thud, and I shoved it open just in time to see her sprinting down a narrow alley lit by a flickering security light. Her heels clattered against the pavement, and for a second I almost laughed, because I'd told her 100 times those shoes were impossible to run in. I went after her anyway. 10 hours in a car, a fight brewing inside the theater, and my lungs already burning. But the thought of her vanishing with that secret was stronger than the ache in my legs. She looked over her shoulder once, saw me closing in, and tried to push faster. The alley opened into a parking lot, where a black SUV was idling, driver's side door open. She was headed straight for it. "Mara!" I shouted. She didn't stop. I lunged, grabbing the back of her jacket, just as she reached the SUV door. She twisted hard, shoving at my chest with surprising strength. "Let me go, Ethan." 50 grand, Mara. I snapped. "Where is it?" Her eyes widened, not at the question, but the fact I already knew. "You don't understand." "Make me understand." The driver, a man I didn't recognize, leaned across from inside the SUV. "Get in," he barked at her, ignoring me completely. His hand dipped toward the floor, and I saw the dull black outline of a gun tucked under the seat. That was when I realized this was no simple cheating scandal anymore. Whatever she and Jace had done, whoever they'd taken that money from, it had teeth. "I'm not letting you go," I told her, my voice low. "Not until I know what's going on." She tried to pull away again, but I held on, and for a brief moment we just stared at each other. I saw panic in her eyes, not just guilt. panicked like she was already too deep and sinking fast. "You think you're hurting me?" she said, voice trembling. "Ethan, you have no idea who you're really hurting." The driver's voice cut through the tension. "Now, Mara." She yanked hard, finally slipping out of her jacket, and dove into the SUV. The door slammed, the tires screeched, and the vehicle shot backward so fast I had to jump aside. I stood there in the middle of the parking lot, holding her abandoned jacket, my chest heaving. Inside one of the pockets, something buzzed. I reached in and pulled out her phone. Luis's voice suddenly came through my earpiece. "Ethan, Carson's out cold. Jace just ran for the back, and security's losing control. You need to get out of here before the cops show up." I didn't answer. I was already unlocking her phone with the code I still remembered. And right there, in her recent messages, was a single thread from an unknown number. No name, just "balance due. You have 48 hours. There was also a pinned photo, a photo of me, standing in our kitchen, taken from outside the window. For a long second, I just stared at the photo. The blinds in our kitchen had been closed that night. I knew they had, which meant whoever took it had been close enough to pry them open, snap the shot, and disappear. The timestamp in the corner was from 2 nights ago. I scrolled up through the messages. Each one was short, cold, and getting angrier. 50,000. We want it back. Stop running. You don't want us to come to him. And then that last one with my picture. Luis's voice buzzed again in my ear. "Ethan, where are you? The cops are here now. If they see you with that remote in your hand, you're done." But I barely heard him. I was piecing it together. Carson wasn't the only person Mara owed. Whoever these people were, they decided the quickest way to make her pay was to use me. My pulse kicked hard. I shoved her phone in my pocket, zipped her jacket up, and started back toward the theater. If the police were already swarming, maybe I could slip in through another entrance and find Luis before they spotted me. Halfway there, a shadow detached itself from the alley wall. "Mr. Price." The man's voice was polite. Too polite. He wore a plain gray coat, and his hands were in the pockets. "Who's asking?" I said, keeping my own voice steady. "Let's just say I represent some very disappointed investors." He smiled, but it didn't touch his eyes. "Your wife made promises she couldn't keep. That money she took, it wasn't hers to spend. And now, Mr. Price, it's yours to replace." I took a step back. "I don't owe you anything." He stepped forward to close the distance, speaking low. "You do now, because we collect what's owed. And if she's too busy hiding, we'll settle for whatever you've got. House, savings, health." My fingers curled tight around the remote in my pocket. I wasn't going to win a fight against him here, but I wasn't going to let him think I was scared either. "You want the money?" I said. "Then you're going to help me find her." That got his attention. His smile thinned. "Why would I help you?" "Because if I find her first, I can make sure you get every dirty secret she's sitting on. Things are worth a lot more than 50 grand. He studied me for a long beat, like he was measuring whether I was bluffing. "You've got 24 hours, Price." After that, we stopped being polite. Then he melted back into the alley, as quiet as he'd appeared. I turned toward the street, my mind racing. Mara wasn't just running from me. She was running from them. And now I was on their radar. The old plan, humiliation, wasn't enough anymore. This wasn't about revenge alone. This was survival. I headed toward the back of the theater, where Luis was waiting by the stage door. He looked pale. "You need to see this," he said, pulling me inside. The projector was still on, and the slideshow I cued had ended, but someone had replaced it. A new image was up. It was a live feed from a camera inside our house. The live feed was grainy, but the angle was unmistakable. Our kitchen. The same counter where I'd made the road trip sandwiches that morning. Luis swallowed hard. "It just popped up a few minutes ago. Not from our system. Someone patched in remotely." The camera view shifted slightly, like whoever was holding it moved their hand. Then the frame tilted toward the window. And there she was, Mara, inside our house. Alone. Luis looked at me. Guess she didn't run far. "She's not alone," I said. I could feel it in my gut. If she was back at the house, it was because someone was letting her hide there. Someone who wanted to keep her close. I pulled her phone from my pocket, scrolling through the unknown number's messages again. The last one, sent 10 minutes ago, read, "Say for now. Stay put until I say." That told me two things. One, she wasn't in control anymore. And two, the man in the gray coat wasn't the only one watching her. I turned to Luis. "You still have Carson's number?" He frowned. "Yeah. Why?" "Call him. Tell him I've got a way to make his 50 grand back, plus interest, but he's got to show up tonight. And tell him to bring everything he has on Mara and Jace." Luis hesitated. "Ethan, you're about to put some dangerous people in the same room." "That's the point," I said. The plan was simple. Use the people chasing her to flush her out, then make her talk on camera in front of everyone she'd lied to and stolen from. By the time Luis got Carson on board, I was already texting the unknown number from Mara's phone. "Me. It's not safe at the house. Meet me at the old train depot. Alone. Midnight." No reply came, but I didn't need one. If they thought she might be exposed, they'd move her, and I'd be there waiting. Midnight at the depot was like a scene out of an old crime movie. Rusted tracks, busted windows, the distant hum of freight trains miles away. Carson arrived first, stepping out of a dented pickup with two of his guys. He looked just as angry as he had in the theater, but now there was something more: anticipation. "You better be right about this," he said. "She'll be here," I told him, "and so will Jace." 10 minutes later, headlights cut across the gravel. A black SUV rolled in slow, the same one from the parking lot. The driver killed the engine. Mara stepped out, hood pulled over her hair, eyes darting between us. Then she saw Carson and froze. "You set me up," she breathed, looking at me like I'd just pulled the ground out from under her. "Not just you," I said. "Him too." Jace emerged from the passenger side, jaw tight. The driver stayed put, watching everything with dead eyes. Carson took a step forward. "I want my money, Mara. Tonight." But before she could answer, another set of headlights appeared at the far end of the lot. A dark sedan rolled up fast, tires spitting gravel. It was the man in the gray coat. He got out slow, his hands in his pockets. "Looks like we've all been looking for the same prize," he said. His voice was calm, almost friendly, but his eyes locked on me. And just like that, I realized I was no longer in control. I brought everyone to the same place, but now all of them were looking at me like I was a deciding factor in how this night ended. Mara stepped closer, her voice low, so only I could hear. "Ethan, if you give them what they want, you'll be signing your own death warrant." The gray coat man raised his voice. "So, Mr. Price, who gets a girl?" I glanced at the remote in my pocket, because it wasn't just a remote anymore. Luis had made sure it could trigger one last thing, something no one here knew about, and in 30 seconds, I'd either have every answer I'd come for, or I'd be the one getting buried. The night air at the depot was sharp and cold, carrying the smell of rust and old oil. 3 sets of eyes were locked on me: Carson's, the man in the gray coat, and Mara's. Behind them, Jay stood stiff, scanning for exits like a trapped animal. I had one shot. My fingers closed around the remote in my pocket. Luis's voice echoed in my head from earlier. "Press it and hold for 3 seconds. Don't let go until you're sure." I stepped forward, the gravel crunching under my boots. "You all want the same thing, money, but you're missing something more valuable." The gray coat man tilted his head. "Enlighten us." "Proof," I said. "The kind that ruins reputations, kills deals, and burns bridges so thoroughly that no one will ever touch Mara or Jace again. The kind that makes it impossible for them to hide anywhere." Mara's voice cracked. "Ethan, stop." I didn't stop. Every contract, every message, every photo, backed up and ready. I push this button, and it goes live to every contact I've got. Journalists, promoters, sponsors, law enforcement. For the first time, Carson's anger cooled into something sharper. "You're bluffing." I smiled. "Try me." The gray coat man's eyes narrowed. And what do you want, Mr. Price? I turned to Mara, locking eyes with her. The truth, out loud, about the 50 grand, about Jace, about everything. You tell them, or I press this. The silence stretched, the only sound a distant train horn. Mara's breath came fast. Her eyes darted to Jace, then to Carson, then finally down to the gravel. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she said, voice trembling. Carson fronted me the money to record an album. I lost the gambling. Jace said he could fix it, that he knew people who'd invest. But those investors were his loan sharks. They wanted double back. I didn't have it. So I ran. I thought I could keep Ethan out of it. Carson's jaw flexed. You should have come to me. The gray coat man didn't speak. He just stared at Jace, long enough to make the younger man shift uncomfortably. You used my money for your own debt, the gray coat finally said. I can get it back. Jace started, but the man's hand moved inside his coat, and whatever he was about to pull made Carson's guy step forward. Enough, I said sharply, lifting the remote. You want blood, do it after I leave. But if you kill each other here, you'll never see a dime. I've got accounts and records that could bury all of you or pay all of you, depending on who walks away. The gray coat froze mid-motion. Carson's men eased back. I took a slow breath. Here's the deal. You both walk away with your cut from the sale of every piece of dirt I've got on Mara and Jace. And I walk away with my life. Carson gave a short, ugly laugh. You think I'd trust you? You don't have to trust me, I said. You just have to know I'm angry enough to make sure no one wins if I lose. The gray coat man studied me for a moment that felt like an hour. Then finally he smiled faintly. Fair enough. He turned to Mara. You should thank your husband. She didn't look at me. I backed toward my car, remote still in hand, heart pounding. No one followed. They all stood there watching each other, calculating, waiting for the next move. When I finally pulled into my driveway hours later, the first light of dawn was breaking. The house felt different now, colder, emptier. I knew Mara wouldn't be back, and I didn't want her to. On my kitchen table sat the little white box with a microphone charm. I'd left it there before the trip, thinking it would be a gift. I opened it, stared at the charm for a long time, then dropped in the trash. The revenge I'd wanted started as humiliation, but it ended with survival, and the knowledge that I'd outplayed them all. And somewhere in Nashville, Mara would wake up knowing that I still had the remote, and that I could press it any time I wanted, forever.